Hey guys, it's Richard from Grafting Dragon Fruits, and today I'm going to be showing you guys how to do a clone grafting. And what I mean by clone grafting is I'm going to be using a stem on an existing dragon fruit that was still left on when I purchased at a grocery store. You can find these when you go shopping at the fruit markets or even go to a fruit store that they sell dragon fruits. Look for the stems that have these type of viable stems on it. And as you can see, this one is still very plumped. It's not dried out yet. So this one is going to be one that I'll be using, and I bought about 4 boxes to find about 5 dragon fruits with the stems on it. So I'm going to show you guys some that I would not use and some that would be ideal to use. So the ones I would not use this is a perfect example. Even though there was still a stem on it and they still have areoles on it, which is also called thorns, you see how dry it is and very thin it is? I wouldn't use this because it's already so weak, and if you graft it on, it's not going to be as strong as you would like it versus this one. Can you guys tell the difference on this one? You see how this one is so plump, there's some juices left in it, and if you look at the cut cross, this one is still very filled with juice, and this one is starting to look like it's going to die out. So if you can, choose the ones that still are plumped, very fat, and at touch, I like to use my finger, I squeeze them, and they just kind of like are very stiff. That's how I know that this one is going to be a great candidate to use for clone grafting. So that's how I choose which ones to use. So this is the one that's going to be used for this video. And the type of grafting I'm going to be using for this type of clone grafting will be how much stem I have to use. So this is a pretty good piece. So that means I can use this to do a horizontal graft. I'm going to cut down here, attach it horizontally onto my rootstock, and then hopefully everything attaches and then we get a growth. And if I don't have a lot of plant material, this would be a good one where I have only 2 thorns, and if I cut too close, it's gonna be cutting off of the vein, so maybe it won't transfer the energy to grow. I can use these little thorns here to do V grafts. So what I would do is take my V graft tool right there, cut a V right through, take this and then do a V-cut graft right onto my rootstock. And V-cut grafting and horizontal grafting is already in my channel, so if you guys haven't checked those out yet, go ahead and reference to those so that way you can be prepared to do one of these grafts once you come across a fruit with a viable stem on it. Alright guys, so that's a little description and tip to what to look for, all the tools that you need, and what style of grafting that you're going to be doing once you have a Ecuador pylori stem or any of the dragon fruits that you're going to try to clone. So what I do first is I take the fruit. I'm going to put this down so that way you guys can see. Sorry, it's a little wet there. And I'm going to take a very sharp knife, and first is I'm going to remove this stem as safely as I can. So what I do is I always start right in there, and I just start to cut at the flesh, and I go in about 1/2 inch deep, so that way I'm cutting most of the flesh and I'm not really damaging the stem. And I'm just following the outer layer and trying to be as careful as I can. So as you guys can see, I'm making sure that I'm staying away from all of that plant material, because I don't want to cut any on accident and it's gonna fall and I'm gonna be pretty sad. So just like that. So this is what I have after I finish, and I'm just gonna clean that up by taking off all of the excessive flesh on. So a tip that I would recommend is this can sometimes dry this scion out. So I would take some black tar, cover this part, so that way it seals it and not a lot of moisture leaves, and this can stay more viable and it won't dry out as quickly once you're grafting it. So here you guys can see, it is a beautiful scion. We have some thorns, areoles, and that's gonna be where all the new shoots and new buds grow out. So when you're grafting, make sure that there's some of these on there, or even the top scion part, they can also grow upwards. And I have one that's already successful, and I'll show you guys that at the end of my video. And so we're gonna get started on grafting this. So as I already told you, I have enough plant material here to do a horizontal graft, and that's exactly what we're gonna do. This is my rootstock. I'm using a Voodoo Child rootstock because it's so nice and plump. The roots on this is humongous. I pulled it out just to make sure that it's established, and it was definitely there. So this is what I'm gonna use. Okay guys, so I already sprayed this with some alcohol, and I've been letting it to dry so that way nothing gets infected. So make sure when you're grafting, sanitize your tools. So that way you don't spread any of the diseases once you're cutting back and forth. It can cause decay or necrosis on your plant, and it's gonna ruin your graft. So, and you don't want that to happen, right? So it's always better to be safe than sorry. What I do is to get to this part, once I start grafting is, I use a shear. I've tried using my scalpel or other grafting tools, but the woody part, it gets so hard that you can't cut it correctly and it's just really sloppy. So what I do is I take one of these, and when you're cutting it, you want to get rid of all of the necrosis that's going on, all the dry part, until you see fresh cambium layer. The moment you see fresh cambium layer, you can attach it to your rootstock, and that's when everything is going to be real smooth. So here I go. I'm going to cut about here, as little as I can. Okay, and I'm going to cut it real quick, just like this. I'm going to check it out. So I see some fresh cambium layer there, but I want to expose more. So I'm going to go ahead and do one more cut, okay? I'm just going to go a little bit deeper just because I want to see more of that cambium layer. So once we do an attachment, there is more for it to secure and bond to. Okay, so this is what you're going to have. You want to see green cambium layer. So that means that the cambium layer is still alive. You've exposed the flesh. Now we're going to go ahead and attach this to our rootstock. I'm going to leave this on the side. Here is my rootstock. This is a Voodoo Child rootstock, and I'm going to go ahead and cut enough just so then I can attach it right onto there. So here we have it, and you guys see that cambium layer. It's right there. What you're going to want to do for a horizontal graft is now you're just going to match that with this, and that is it. So you're going to find out which way it's facing. So there's a back side and there's always a front side. Oops, sorry about that. So the front side for this one would be here, and the back side looks like it's pointing this way. So what I'm going to do now is, you see how I just take a look, find where that cambium layer is, match it right down just like that. You hold it down, and I already have tape back here, guys, that my wife has cut and prepared for me. And now I'm just gonna secure everything down as tight as I can, just like this. So that is my first tape. So once you put one tape on, just take another look to make sure that you have matched everything together. So I'm opening it, I see that the cambium layers are there. I'm matching it down. Okay, I know that they're both secured. Take more tape now, and I just keep continuing to secure it down just like that. And go ahead. I like to use about 3 to 4 pieces of tape just so that I know that it's really on there, and I push down, and as I push down, I really secure the tape down. Okay, so that part has a little gap still. I like to cover all the gaps so that way it can heal tightly and securely. So I'm going to go ahead and do that, push it down, and look at how I pull that tape. And there you go. I have a flush graft now. And that is how you do a clone graft, you guys. You go out to the store, you look for a dragon fruit with the existing stem on it, make sure it's still plump and viable. You go home, find an established rootstock, and then depending how much of the stem that you have, you can either do a horizontal graft, cleft graft, or even a V-cut graft. And that is why you use my other videos to reference to. So when you want to do a clone graft, that's how you approach it. So I showed you guys all of the steps on how to prepare yourself to go ahead and approach that graft. And I hope you guys thought it was helpful. So I'm going to go ahead now and finish wrapping up the graft. So that way you guys can finish this and put it away. And hopefully in 15 to 20 days, we're going to see some signs of success. So now after you do all that graft, I like to take tape and finish wrapping everything, all of the other tape, so nothing gets loose. So I just take some more tape like this, and then I just cover all of the existing tape that's already on here to keep everything tight. And now I take my plastic bag. I do that to put a little bit of carbon dioxide in there, because remember, plants breathe carbon dioxide and they release back oxygen. So when I do that, I'm kind of forcing it to breathe this in, and hopefully it helps it heal and have some energy to grow. And I just take some tape, garden tape here that I have. I'll go ahead and tie this up. Just like this. Okay. So you make sure that it's all nice and tight and straight. You can go ahead and tag a tag on this of the date that you grafted, so that way you can keep track of it, and that way you can count how many days it's been in the shade. What you're going to want to do is, for horizontal grafts or clone grafts like these, I like to leave the bag on until I see that it heals very nicely, and when it starts to get plump and I see a touch, then I can take off the bag. Once I take off the bag too soon, I've noticed at 5 or 10 days, the piece that I grafted on, it gets dehydrated slowly. So what I do is I keep the bag on, keep the humidity in there so that it doesn't get dehydrated. And once I see that it really has bond and sealed all of those crevices, so that way no air exposure can get into it, that's when I remove the bag. And then I keep it in the shade for 15 to 20 to 25 days sometimes, just depending on how thick and plump it's getting. Once I see that it's getting really nice and juicy in there, that's when I take it out to the sun. So base it off of how it looks and how it feels, okay, you guys? And that's it. That's how you successfully do a clone graft, and you can choose which style of method of grafting to do based on how much stem you have. And if everything is successful, you guys should be seeing growth just like this one that I did here. This was grafted just like how I explained to you guys from an existing stem on a dragon fruit that I bought at a grocery store. I went ahead and did a horizontal graft, and if you guys take a look, it has healed very well and is super plump and is giving me three very healthy shoots. So this is the Ecuador Pelora that I grafted from the stem, and I'm showing you guys how I did it. So hopefully if you guys are successful, you'll have the same results just like this. So go out there, go and find the fruits with the viable stems on it and start to get grafting. And I'm always here to help you guys, so don't be discouraged. I will answer all your questions so we can all be successful together and spread the love for the dragon fruits that we enjoy. Alright guys, if you enjoyed this video, go ahead and hit the like button. If you have any questions about this type of grafting, go ahead and leave in the comments and I'll answer all of the first hour questions. And if you guys want to see more grafting and dragon fruit videos of mine, go ahead and hit the subscribe button so that way you guys won't miss a single thing. Have a wonderful day now. Bye guys.